97.5% of the tea bought in this country comes in tea bags, according to the UK Tea and Infusions Association. And most of those bags aren't what you think they are. In October 2025, which tested the biggest names in British tea, brand by brand, and found that the vast majority still use a form of plastic in the bag itself, even the ones marketed or perceived by shoppers as plastic-free. Here's the trick. The old sealing material, polypropylene, never fully breaks down. It just gets smaller and smaller. So over the last few years, most brands quietly switched to something called PLA, a bioplastic made from plant starch instead of oil. It sounds like the fix, and it's marketed like one. It isn't. PLA is still, technically and legally, a plastic. It still sheds microplastics into your cup once it hits boiling water. And which found brands and retailers actively describing PLA bags as plastic-free and even microplastics-free on their own websites, neither of which is true. 5 major names failed that test outright. 2 genuinely didn't. Let's get into it. Number 5. Typhoo. Typhoo was Britain's first pre-packaged tea brand, launched in Birmingham in 1903 by grocer John Sumner, who packaged the small broken tea leaves other companies threw away and sold them under a brand name instead. By the 1930s, it was in over 40,000 shops. For more than a century, it was a fixture of the British cupboard, the kind of tin that just sat there, generation after generation, without anyone questioning it. In late November 2024, the company collapsed into administration. Within days, Supreme plc bought the brand and its assets out of administration for £10.2 million, saving what's often described as the UK's oldest packet tea brand from disappearing entirely. New owners, same bag. Which confirmed Typhoo's tea bags use PLA. A company that had just survived a genuine near-death experience, rescued at the 11th hour, chose to keep the exact packaging that lets it be perceived as eco-friendly, rather than actually fix the material underneath the marketing. Number 4. PG Tips. PG Tips is the tea most associated with the classic monkey adverts, decades of them, a genuine national institution that most British households have had in the cupboard at some point. It hasn't been British-owned for a while, though. Unilever agreed to sell off its entire tea business, rebranded as Ecoterra and now called Lipton Teas and Infusions, to private equity firm CVC Capital Partners for €4.5 billion in 2021, with the sale completing in 2022. PG Tips is now just one of well over 30 brands sitting inside that private equity portfolio, alongside names like Lipton and Puka. Which confirmed PG Tips. Original uses PLA tea bags. A multi-billion euro global tea empire owned by a private equity firm whose entire business model is squeezing more value out of what it buys, and the bag still isn't what its packaging quietly lets you assume it is. Number 3. Twinings. Twinings has occupied the same shop at 216 The Strand in London since 1706, opened by Thomas Twining, and still carries the oldest continuously used company logo in the world, unchanged since 1787. It's owned by Associated British Foods, a conglomerate that posted $25.5 billion in group revenue in 2024, with Twinings alone bringing in £234.3 million in revenue and almost £100 million in profit for the year, part of a grocery division growth the company credited to strong performance from both Twinings and its Ovaltine brand. Here's the twist. Twinings everyday tea bags, the ones in the standard box most people actually buy, use PLA, confirmed directly by Which. But its string and tag bags, the ones with a little paper tag and string hanging off the side, are certified plastic-free and home compostable. Same 3-century-old brand, 2 different formats, and only one of them is the clean option. If you've been grabbing whichever Twinings box was on offer without checking which style it is, there's a decent chance you've been getting the wrong answer about half the time. If this is changing how you look at your tea cupboard, helps more people see it before their next shop rather than after they've already bought the wrong box. Which didn't just eyeball packaging for this one either. They went through the material specs and marketing claims of dozens of brands, cross-checked what the box says against what the bag is actually made of, and published exactly which category each one fell into: plastic, PLA, or genuinely plastic-free. That's the difference between a vague, sounds about right impression most of us walk around with and an answer you can actually trust. Number 2, Yorkshire Tea. This one's different from the rest, and that's exactly why it belongs here. Yorkshire Tea is owned by Betty's and Taylors of Harrogate, a genuine family business tracing back to two separate Yorkshire firms. Taylors, founded by brothers Charles and Llewellyn Taylor in 1886, and Betty's, the tea room founded by Swiss immigrant Frederick Belmont in 1919. The two merged into one family group in 1962 and have stayed that way since. It's not a private equity portfolio, it's not a multinational conglomerate. It markets itself on being straightforward, plain-speaking, Yorkshire through and through, and it's genuinely one of the most trusted brands in the country, which still found PLA in its tea bags. To be fair, Yorkshire Tea's own website is relatively upfront that it uses plant-based bags, which is at least honest framing rather than an outright plastic-free claim. But plant-based is exactly the language, which warned shoppers not to confuse with actually plastic-free, and the underlying material sheds the same microplastics regardless of how gently it's described. Being family-run, independent, and genuinely beloved doesn't automatically mean the bag in your mug is what you assumed it was. Good intentions and a real supply chain problem aren't the same thing. Number 1, Tetley. Tetley has been in business since 1837, when brothers Joseph and Edward Tetley, originally salt merchants from Yorkshire, moved into tea and built one of the country's first mass-market tea companies. In 1953, Tetley brought the tea bag itself to the UK for the first time, the format basically the entire country now drinks from without a second thought. It's now owned by Tata Consumer Products, one of the largest tea companies in the world, since taking full control in 2000. Tetley's black tea bags use PLA, same as everyone else on this list. But its herbal range doesn't even get that far, which found Tetley's herbal tea bags contain conventional plastic, not the bio-based kind, the same non-biodegradable polypropylene the entire industry has spent the last several years claiming to move away from. The company that invented the British tea bag 70 years ago is, on part of its own current range, still quietly using the oldest, worst version of the exact problem this whole story is about. That's 5 brands, 5 different owners, an administration survivor, a private equity portfolio, a 300-year-old heritage name, a family business, and the company that invented the format everyone else copied, and one shared habit: describe the bag as plant-based or plastic-free and hope nobody actually checks it against the people who ran the test. Why does this even matter for something you throw in a bin after 4 minutes? Because the whole reason PLA exists is to let brands make an environmental claim without changing much else. It costs more to genuinely certify a bag as home compostable than to switch to a plant-based plastic and describe it loosely. Most shoppers can't tell the difference by looking, which is exactly why an independent test, not a label, is the only way to actually know. Now, 2 that passed. Best option 2, Hampstead Tea, which confirmed Hampstead's tea bags are genuinely plastic-free and certified home compostable, meaning they'll actually break down in your own back garden compost heap, not just an industrial facility most households never have access to in the first place. Most of the range is organic too, and unlike several names on this list, Hampstead didn't need a some ranges or some formats caveat next to its result. The whole range passed. Best option 1, Puka. Same certification, plastic-free, certified home compostable, confirmed by which, not a marketing claim self-reported by the brand. Worth being upfront about one thing: Puka is owned by the same parent company as PG Tips, the private equity-backed Lipton Teas and Infusions, formerly Ekaterra. So this isn't a story of scrappy independent versus corporate giant. It's proof that even inside the exact same portfolio, the actual bag you get depends on the specific choices made for that specific product, not on who signs the checks. On the one test that matters here, Puka passed and its sister brand didn't. So here's the rule to take to the shop with you. Plant-based and plastic-free are not the same claim, whatever the box design implies. If a bag doesn't specifically say certified home compostable on the pack or on the brand's own site, assume it's PLA at best and act accordingly. Check the actual format too, not just the brand. As Twinings proves, the same name can sell you both the right answer and the wrong one depending on which box you grab. And if you want to skip the question entirely, loose leaf tea has no bag to worry about at all. To recap, Typhoo, PLA, fresh out of administration. PG Tips, PLA, owned by the same private equity firm as one of our best picks. Twinings, split down the middle between its everyday and string and tag ranges. Yorkshire Tea, PLA, despite being one of the most trusted family names in the country. And Tetley, the brand that invented the format itself, still using genuine plastic in part of its own range. Hampstead and Pucker passed cleanly, certified and independently confirmed, no caveats. If this changed how you look at your next cup, tell us in the comments which brand surprised you most. And if you think tea is the only everyday product hiding a gap between the label and the lab result, wait until you see what's really in a loaf of supermarket bread. That one's still coming.